It was 5:47 a.m. when her phone rang. She had been awake already, the way mothers are when their hearts sense something has gone wrong. The news came not in words, but in silence, the kind that splits the soul. Her hands trembled as she gripped the phone. Her knees gave way before the tears did. In that one breath, the woman who had raised him from a fragile boy into a man adored by millions became a mother who had outlived her son. She didn't scream. She didn't faint. She simply whispered, "No, he promised me he'd come home next week." The clock kept ticking, cruel and indifferent, marking time that no longer had meaning. Subscribe for more emotional K-drama love stories. By the time she reached his apartment, the scent of his cologne still lingered in the air, a quiet ghost of his existence. The walls were lined with scripts, guitars, and photographs from his dramas. On his desk lay an unfinished letter, the edges still wet from ink. It read only, "Mom, I've been thinking about that song you used to hum when I was little." She couldn't finish reading. Her hands shook too hard. She pressed the letter to her chest, her tears soaking into the paper like rain on dry soil. Everywhere she looked, she saw him, his smile, his energy, his quiet kindness. But the silence of that room screamed louder than any voice. She knelt beside his bed, the same way she did when he was a boy with a fever. She whispered, "Wake up, Menglong. It's time to eat." But the bed remained still. Only the curtains moved, the wind pretending to answer her. Grief makes time dissolve. 1 second she was holding his photograph, and the next she was back in their old kitchen, 20 years ago. Menglong was 8, sitting on the counter with flour on his face, trying to help her make dumplings. "Mom, can I be on TV someday?" he asked, eyes sparkling. She laughed, brushing flour from his nose. "If you promise to never forget where home is." And he didn't. No matter how famous he became, through dramas, music, and the lights of endless stages, he always came home. He'd sit by her, barefoot on the porch, sipping tea and humming tunes from his childhood. She'd tell him, "You still hum like that little boy with flour on his cheeks." He'd grin, "And you still make the best dumplings." Now, in the present, that kitchen was quiet. The stool was empty. The tea on the table had gone cold. When the day of the funeral arrived, thousands gathered, fans, friends, co-stars. Cameras clicked, flowers flooded the air, and sobs echoed in the distance. But for her, it all blurred into gray. She sat in the front row, a single black veil hiding eyes that had seen too much pain. Someone handed her his photograph, his face glowing, his smile eternal. She touched the frame gently, whispering, "You always smiled like that when you didn't want me to worry." Reporters called it a national heartbreak. Fans wept across oceans, lighting candles and writing letters to the man who had given them hope through songs and roles. But for his mother, it wasn't a tragedy for the nation. It was the collapse of her universe. As his casket was lowered, she placed something small on top, a tiny music box. When opened, it played the lullaby she used to hum to him every night. And for the first time since the call, her tears finally fell, not as sobs, but as quiet rain. In the weeks that followed, she wandered through their old home like a ghost. Every corner carried an echo, his laughter from the hallway, his voice rehearsing lines in the living room, the sound of his guitar strings late at night. She couldn't bring herself to change anything. The cup he last used still sat on the table, his shoes still by the door, his jacket still hanging where he left it. Sometimes she'd sit in his room, eyes closed, pretending to hear him say, "Mom, I'm home." At night, she'd dream of him, barefoot, smiling, standing in sunlight. He'd call out to her, "Don't cry, Mom. I'm just resting a bit longer." And she'd wake up reaching for him, only to find cold air. Eventually, she began writing letters. Not to anyone, just to him. "Today, I saw one of your dramas on TV. You were laughing with your co-star, and for a moment, I forgot you were gone. Fans still come here, you know. They bring flowers and sing your songs. You're still making people smile, even from where you are. Do you remember the song we wrote together? I sang it today. The neighbors might think I'm crazy, but it made me feel closer to you. She placed each letter in a small wooden box, the same one that once held his childhood toys. She called it the box of forever. And every time she wrote, she felt a bit of warmth return, as if he were reading them somewhere, smiling. Subscribe for more emotional K-drama love stories. Months later, the world began to move again. Seasons changed, flowers bloomed, and time, relentless as ever, tried to heal what it had broken. One morning, she went to his favorite park. The cherry blossoms were falling, painting the ground with soft pink petals, the same spot where he had once filmed a scene years ago. She sat on the bench, closed her eyes, and let the wind wrap around her. For the first time, she didn't cry. She simply smiled. "You were right, Menglong," she whispered. "Even in the dark, your music still finds me." She opened the music box once more. The lullaby played, delicate, trembling, eternal. And just then, a gentle breeze swept through, carrying with it a single white petal that landed softly on her hand. She looked up to the sky, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she saw him. Not as a memory, but as light. Pure, golden light. In the years that followed, she turned her grief into something beautiful. She started a foundation in his name, the Menglong Light Project, to help underprivileged children learn music. Every time she visited the center, she'd see little boys strumming guitars, their voices uncertain, yet full of hope. And she'd smile. "He would have loved this," she'd whisper. Sometimes she'd sit by the window, listening to the students sing his old songs. Their voices carried warmth, the same warmth that once filled her home. The world remembered him as an actor, a singer, a star. But to her, he was always just her little boy, the one who believed that music could heal anything. And, in a way, it had healed her too. Subscribe for more emotional K-drama love stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next story.